I want to start by giving thanks. I want to start by thanking the fabulous staff of the Colorado Health Foundation. You met some of them out at the registration. They're sprinkled among the audience. I want to particularly thank our communications group for all the work they do to put this symposium on. Sarah Porter Osborne and her team. Jan, who's always down here doing the timing for us. So because sometimes on Friday we lose some people, I want to thank everyone while you are here. I want you all to, would all the staff please stand, and I'd love for the audience to give them a round of applause. Those are my peeps. All right. So every year we have folks who join us who may not know a lot about the foundation. This year we've got developers joining us and some other folks who aren't familiar with the foundation. So I just want to take a moment to remind everybody who we are. And our vision being that we want each person in Colorado to be able to say, we have everything we need to live a healthy life. And for far too many, for far too long, that is not true. So we are obsessed at the foundation with bringing health in reach for those Coloradans for whom it right now is not. So that's who we are and what we're about. We're focusing on these four major focus areas: maintain healthy bodies, which has our legacy work of access to primary care and children move more. Now in nurture healthy minds, there's our early childhood social emotional development, adolescent and young adult resiliency, and community non-clinical recovery efforts. Then in strength and community health, there lives our work on housing, affordable housing, our work on food security, and I lost one. I forgot, I had a brain blip. Thank you, community solutions, thank you. See, that's why they're my peeps. They don't let me fail. And then in Champion Health Equity, it's on our advocacy and capacity building. So those are the things we're focused on. Now, there's the three things that underpin all of our work are the fact that we are in service to, with, for, and on behalf of low-income Coloradans and Coloradans who have historically been marginalized. We do everything we do is with the intent of eliminating inequity and creating health equity. And we want to be informed in everything we do by the people whose lived experience we're trying to assist. And those are the fundamentals that drive everything we do. Now, a lot of you know who we are, and you kind of may wonder what we've been up to the last few years, or the last few months since we last met. A couple of things I want to highlight. I trip on this every time. I'm going to just high step it. Equitable evaluation. We are excited to be one of the few but growing group of foundations that are going to focus on equitable evaluations and using an equitable evaluation framework. Now, in evaluator speak, my friends Kelsey and Yin and Nick and Devin will say we're going to challenge the orthodoxies of traditional evaluation. When I ask them to speak English and tell me what that means, it means that we are challenging the traditional notions of what data are reliable, what data are valuable, what data are trusted, what constitutes an expert. And so it blows up the model that everything has to be quantitative. It blows up the model that only someone with a PhD behind their name is an expert. And it says that if you have lived experience, you are an expert. It says that your stories count as data. And it says that we have to challenge all of that and look at things through the lens of equity. And when you look at the evaluation through an equity lens, it changes how you would approach evaluation. So we're excited about that work. We'll be telling our broader community more about that as the year goes on, because it's now the underpinning of all of the evaluation work that we'll be doing at the foundation. We continue in our deep community engagement in 4 communities now: the County of Alamosa, County of Morgan, Eagle County, and the City of Pueblo. And then in 2020, we hope to add 1 or 2 additional communities or counties in that deep community work. But on a broader sense, we are still learning what it means to be in community engagement and to be community informed. We're still learning how to approach communities in a way that we can become trusted partners and trusted outsiders and understand the specific context of their world and how the resources we have to bring to bear can be used on their behalf. We are trying to deepen our understanding of inequity and the sources of inequity. And part of that comes from we have to talk to those people. We have to talk to the people who have the lived experience. We have data. You're going to hear a lot of data today. We have a lot of understanding of that. But we also need to scratch beneath that and see, so what else is going on? So we're really trying to understand the sources, not just that the inequity exists. That's the easy part. But what caused it? And how can we disrupt it to the extent that we can? And then finally, we've been experimenting some this last year. We've been experimenting with Symposium Unplugged, which are regional events that take a deeper dive into some of the topics that we have at the broader symposium. The feedback we have from that so far tells us we're on the right track, but we still haven't quite yet hit the sweet spot on that. So we will continue learning and developing and growing until we can do that in a way that meets the needs of the folks who attend. We're experimenting, those of you on the grant making side, we're experimenting with doing responsive grant making, which is outside of and different from our very focused, intentional funding opportunities. Feedback from that is, you're confused. You don't know what we're trying to do. And the internal feedback is, it's not doing what we wanted it to do. So we will, again, we're going to try to keep refining that and learn, but the feedback is important so that we can fine tune it so that it works both for you and for us. And then I'll tell you more. I have another experiment I will share with you tomorrow. So that's what we've been up to. So now, this year's symposium on housing and health. So 15, 16 years ago, if you went to a health event, a health program, housing would not have been the topic. You would have thought you were in the wrong room. But now we understand the connection that housing has to mental health and physical health. We understand the connection between safe housing and your ability to free your mind from that stress in order to deal with the other stressors that you have in your life. We know that it's a national crisis, not just national, certainly local. And we've had lots of local media. The Denver Post ran a series, might have been last week or 2 weeks ago, on the housing crisis. There are, as you can see on there, there are articles from around the state as well as national articles. So it's nothing new, but at least it's coming to the conscious of the national audience which always is helpful to us on a local level. Now, some of you might have read the blog that I put out a week or so ago ahead of the symposium, where I talked about my own experience in housing and kind of housing discrimination, discriminatory practices. And it involved the fact that about 13 years ago, when I still lived in North Carolina, my husband and I were moving from one town to another town, and we needed to find a realtor. So we decided to do an experiment as part of how we were going to find a realtor. Now, my husband, who next month is our 35th anniversary. Woo. I'll tell you what, this is the hardest work I've ever done in my life, is to be and stay married. He's worth it. But my husband of, then it would have been 25 or 24 years. My husband is white. So we decided to do an experiment. So we went to the most reputable real estate company in the town we're moving to. We both contacted the same agent, met with them separately, gave them the identical information on our income, identical information on the kind of housing we were looking for, what we wanted in our house, what the priorities were, told them about our children. They knew, both had the same pre-qualification data. So then we meet separately with them to go look at houses. We were taken to completely different parts of town. My husband was taken to much more affluent communities, all white communities, where the good schools were. I was taken to more moderate communities that were diverse. They were lovely neighborhoods. There's nothing wrong with the neighborhoods. But they showed me houses $200,000 less than the houses they showed my husband. So then when we showed up together to that realtor and then asked to talk to the owner of the company, needless to say, we did not use that company. We went somewhere else. However, you know, housing discrimination is illegal. But is it still practiced in many ways? Yes. And we want to explore that more as these next 3 days go along. I want to also thank our steering committee. So we had internal staff who are on our communications team and who are on the team of folks who are working on housing, as well as some outside experts, and we want to thank them for their service and feedback. Now, what can you expect this next few days? We're live streaming. Hello to all of you out there watching us, to the millions watching around the globe, to all those people who are choosing the Colorado Health Symposium over the Mueller testimony. I'm sure they're going to watch that for a few minutes and go, let me go to the Colorado Health Symposium and here's some good stuff. So I've got the live streaming going on. The undesigned, the red line exhibit, Rowena talked about that. One of the things I wanted to point out to you, when you look at that exhibit, and you'll need several times to do it, because there's a lot there and it's small print, so you got to get up and see it. But you actually see the red line maps of Denver and Pueblo. And you will only see the red line maps of Denver and Pueblo, because when those maps were drawn, the federal criteria for the map to be drawn was a city had to have 40,000 or greater residents. And in Colorado, in 1936-37, there were only two places that had over 40,000 residents, Pueblo and Denver. That's why there are only those two maps. But the exhibit also goes on to talk about local and state kind of discriminatory practices that were happening during the same time. Exchange sessions, this year we had so many outstanding session submissions, we couldn't not choose them all. Couldn't choose them all, but we chose more than usual. So not only do we have exchange sessions this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon, but also Friday morning. So we had to get in another round of exchange sessions. I have a special announcement tomorrow morning that I think you'll want to hear. It's another experiment. Friday donations, again, those of you who are smart enough to stay to the end on Friday, we will be drawing names to do 2 $10,000 donations to the Colorado nonprofit of your choice, and you must be present to win. And we have our event app. Get out your phones, go to your store, download Crowd Compass, and look up CHS 2019. There's the entire agenda. So there'll be updates, any changes, weather-related things, all those things are on the app. Okay. Now, today's agenda and lineup. So this morning, our longtime friend, Alan Weil, will be moderating. And then we will have 2 keynote speakers. The first, Brian Romer, and the second, Mirza Baradaran. Brian's going to focus on, he's one of the people that uniquely sits at the intersection of housing and health, and housing and inequity, and also some of the other social determinants. So he's going to give us a lot of information about that connection. And then Mirza is going to talk about the historical conditions, including redlining, that got us to where we are, and how so many minorities and low-income whites were systemically eliminated and excluded from the wealth-building opportunity of homeownership. Then we'll have a panel discussion that will have both national and local experts. We will end the morning with the Lacona Award for 2019. We'll have our afternoon sessions. At 6, we will all return for our opening reception. And then at 7, I hope you will eat a lot at the reception or delay your dinner plans to join us for a one-on-one conversation with Matt Iglesias, who's a co-founder of Vox, on one of the Vox films, and we will interview him about that, which is about the wealth gap and its relation to housing. So that's our day. Again, the last thank you is thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I know everybody's busy. Everybody has lots of other things, other places they could have been, other things they could have been doing. So thank you for thinking enough of this topic and your interest in wanting to know more about this.